crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Venom, released January 29th, 1982. It was written by Robert Carrington, adapted from the novel by Alan Scholefield, directed by Piers Haggard, taking over for the fired Tobe Hooper, and released by Handmade Films, George Harrison's passion project distributor, who have thus far on the show released Time Bandits, Tattoo, and The Burning. Those are the international releases of those films, not the American ones.
One of those is not like the other.
Yeah. In 1977, Alan Scholefield's novel Venom was published. The same year, Paramount had begun the process of adapting the film to star Sean Connery with a script from David Sherwin, but this version would never come to be. I assume Connery was up for the Commander Bulloch role that landed with Nicol Williamson.
I would assume.
Because he wasn't playing bad guys yet.
Well, and he wasn't old enough to be the grandfather, right?
No, not at the time. The film initially began production with Tobe Hooper directing, but the combined difficulty of working with Oliver Reed, Klaus Kinski, and Sterling Hayden allegedly drove him to a nervous breakdown after 10 days of shooting. Not surprising considering their reputations on set, but Hooper also has something of a reputation for stepping away mid-production over creative differences, as with The Dark and Eaten Alive, which actually reminds me a lot of this film in places.
I'm not going to direct this movie. I'm going to go to Spielberg and not direct a different movie.
Yeah, allegedly. The film's original cinematographer, Anthony B. Richmond, left with Hooper. Some Venom posters, though, printed during pre-production, still credit Hooper as the director. I kind of want one of those.
Who's printing posters in pre-production?
For international markets, They do it right away.
Really?
The Pirates of the Caribbean posters, when they were out, they had Alan Silvestri credited as music.
Huh.
But then by the time it came out, it had been changed to Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Such a great score, too. Hooper was replaced by Piers Haggard, who we last saw in a similar situation, taking over the director's chair last minute on Peter Sellers' swan song, The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu, after the firings of directors Richard Quine and John G. Avildsen by Star Sellers. Haggard himself was also fired by Sellers, but too late in the production not to be credited in the final product. Arriving to the set of Venom, Haggard reshot everything Hooper had in the can and significantly changed the tone of the film, from a surrealist mood piece to a fairly straightforward crime drama with random clumps of camp horror. Director Haggard has quipped that despite his difficult reputation, actor Nicol Williamson was actually one of the most pleasant cast members to work with, second only to the famously aggressive Black Mamba at the heart of the film. So it's all relative. We open on a building with a barely legible sign out front, the American Academy of London. On the steps outside, a young boy named Philip Hopkins is reading a book about snakes when his mother, Ruth Hopkins, arrives late to take him home. Her chauffeur, Dave, is being played by Oliver Reed, which is already ominous enough, but the music gets suspenseful, and we watch his eyes in the rearview mirror as they drive home. As they arrive home, a van from an HVAC company is pulling away, and inside, their maid Louise assures Mrs. Hopkins that the heating is in working order now. Philip rushes upstairs to feed his pets, and his mother asks him to spend a bit more time with her before she leaves for a trip over the weekend. Phil will stay here with his grandfather. Alone together, chauffeur Dave and maid Louise send each other covert signals. Ruth checks in with her dad, Philly's granddad, Howard Anderson, played by Sterling Hayden, and asks how his appointment went today. Apparently he's been staying with them during some health problems, but he's about a month away from fully recovered. She's worried about leaving her son with Dad and considers canceling the trip, but he insists they'll be fine.
Yeah, he was giving off some long goodbye energy.
Yeah,
this.
Totally.
Just especially when he's rocking the beard, you know?
Yeah, when he's got the really long beard. In the maids' quarters, Dave and Louise discuss some kind of nefarious scheme they're cooking up, and Dave thinks they could go to jail for a long time. Ruth being gone is an important ingredient in their plan, and they're worried that she might stick around. Louise distracts him from his worries by stripping down to nothing in front of him. In Philip's room, Grandpa pops in to confirm that in the morning, he will be permitted to travel to the local pet store alone to pick up a new snake to bring home. On her way out the door, Mom reminds everyone where to find emergency contact info if Philip has another asthma attack. That night, Grandpa shares stories with Phil of his exciting adventures on the African safari. He was leading a group of German photographers to a photo op with lions, but Louise peeks in to usher Phil off to bed. She sets up a humidifier in his room and a button to press as an alert in case of emergencies. Dave drops Mrs. Hopkins off at Heathrow, and he sticks around to pick up a passenger for a return trip, a man named Jacmel, played by Klaus Kinski. Louise tells Grandpa she's headed out for the evening and asks him to keep an ear out for any emergency alert from Philip.
I think I missed the whole button thing because I thought it was very strange that, so like the grandpa's on the first floor. Mm-hmm. The kid's bedroom is on the third floor.
Right.
And the kid has asthma. And I was just like, and the grandpa's like got the door closed to the living room area where he's watching a very loud television show. And I'm like, how is he supposed to hear a child in need who has asthma 3 floors away?
No, she literally puts a button with a wire in his hand like he's a game show contestant.
Okay, well that makes me feel a little bit better. But then that doesn't jive with what happens later.
No, because he's just shouting down instead of pressing the button. Yeah.
Well, because I really don't know where that button goes to. Like, is it...
Grandpa unplugged it because fucking thing's beeping all night.
It's very distracting. It's like right in front of the TV.
Dave drops Jacmel off at a small house at the edge of town. The rent has been paid 3 months in advance. Do you guys recall the last time we saw Oliver Reed drive someone to a house in the boonies and pay 3 months rent up front?
The burning. No, not the burning. The sacrifice. You
had the right sound.
The sacrament.
Say the first 4 letters of the other title.
I'm not getting it.
Burnt offerings.
Burnt offerings.
Then we're talking in the neighborhood of $900.
Look, I don't know that I'm going to be able to make that.
For the whole summer.
As Jacmel explores the house, we see it comes equipped with a lot of the same equipment we've already seen in Philip's room, and it seems clear they intend to hold the boy here for ransom. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a maid and chauffeur conspire together to score a windfall of illicit money off a trust fund kid named Philip?
Is that private lessons?
That's correct.
What am I going to tell my father when he comes home and discovers $10,000 missing?
What are you going to tell him when Miss Mallow's remains turn up at the police station?
Louise goes to the safe house to check on Jacmel, and she is quickly all over the man. It seems like they're actually scheming together to cut out Dave of whatever prize they can score. Back at the Hopkins home, Philip is suddenly calling down the stairwell to his grandfather in the midst of an asthma attack, and Grandpa is able to handle it.
Yeah, so this was the moment where I was like, why do you rely on a kid yelling that he needs help
can't
from
breathe,
3
why
floors
is he able
away?
to scream so far? First thing in the morning, he is sneaking Philip out the door to a cab, and Louise tries to stop them. The cabbie is weirdly comfortable accepting a child passenger despite the visible distress of a woman who could easily be this kid's mom.
Mm-hmm. Also, the kid has asthma attacks.
Right.
And
You're sending him alone? Why aren't you going with him? Don't you guys have a driver that you pay full time? What is happening? Jacmel phones the Hopkins house, posing as Mr. Kepler, a filmmaker in need of a guide in Central Africa to keep their production safe. He speaks very flatteringly to Grandpa, aka Howard Anderson, and asks for a lunch at the Tower Hotel this afternoon to go over the specifics. He can't commit to the appointment for fear of abandoning Philip, but the fictional Kepler insists he cannot reschedule, so Grandpa reluctantly agrees. Louise rushes to call Jacmel and update him with Philip's unexpected detour, but Jacmel is calling the hotel in advance and asking them to keep Mr. Anderson waiting for him in the cocktail lounge to buy time. Philip heads into the pet shop calling for Mr. Lowenthal and is nearly shouted out by the owner's wife, Mrs. Lowenthal, who mistakes him for a child here to steal an animal, I guess?
Yeah, like... He's clearly calling the name of your husband.
He knows this place, but it's also the name of the store. It says Lowenthal's Pet Shop on the outside.
But I think she also says something like...
Kids come in here all the
time. They're rowdy in here, and it disturbs the animals.
But it's like, it's one boy. He's not going to be rowdy by himself. Maybe that happens. Apparently, Mr. Lowenthal has been hospitalized and left her in charge of the store, but she seems quite frazzled.
He was bitten by some kind of venomous snake. Anyway, here you go.
Yeah. But she's like, her hair's all straggly, like hanging out. She's holding like 4 boxes as she's like running around screaming.
Does she have something crawling on her?
Like a lizard.
Like an iguana?
Yeah.
Jub.
Exactly. When she realizes it's Philip, she apologizes and collects the snake he ordered to send home with him. Or that's what she thinks she does.
Mm-hmm.
We cut now to the London Institute of Toxicology as Dr. Marion Stowe arrives with another snake in a crate from the same store. Inside, her daughter Susan has been waiting for Mom to join her for lunch.
Seems like if you're going to have snakes in crates, you would have some kind
Label them.
Yeah, you would have some kind of
That'd be
really
good.
like, or what's the toxicology equivalent of a biohazard symbol?
Yeah, there should be a Mr. Yuck.
Just a skull and crossbones.
Yeah.
Literally deadliest snake. Let's put that on there. A lab assistant, Mr. Mukherjee, enters to inform her that the latest arrival snake is not what they ordered.
It's not a mamba, I'm sure. It is not attacking anything or doing something.
Dr. Stowe is confused by the mix-up and offers to double-check in a moment. When he leaves, her daughter Susan mocks the man's English.
He's not attacking anything or doing something.
Listen to me, young lady. Your grammar is not so totally pure, in case you didn't know.
Sorry, I was only joking.
Grandpa Anderson arrives at the Tower Hotel cocktail lounge and is informed that his friend is running a bit behind, but he'll be here as soon as possible. Back at the toxicology building, Stowe confirms for her assistant that the snake is a harmless African house snake. Just as she and her daughter collect their bikes to head to lunch, it occurs to Dr. Stowe that their snake order may have gotten mixed up with another customer's and they could be in danger. She races back inside to phone the police, and they gather the seriousness of the situation much faster than I expected them to.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was so like, these police are on the ball.
You're expecting this to be like a moment where they laugh her off and hang up a couple times first.
Though her daughter seems really annoyed.
Yeah.
The boy's order was for an African house snake, so you see...
You may have got his order, and he may have got yours.
As we learned from Kill Bill, black mambas are among the deadliest snakes in the world. Dr. Stowe has antivenom, but it's no use if they don't find the child in time or if he's allergic to the cure, depending on where he may have been bit.
Yeah, and even then, it's only 50% effective.
Right. And it's also, I mean, she describes it as the deadliest snake in the world. It is not the deadliest snake in the world, at least by any chart that I was able to recognize, but it is a very deadly one and a very fast snake. Like, it moves like 8 miles an hour, which is insane.
And it's aggressive, and so it'll come for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to, like, shy away.
Yeah. And it can, like, rear up and lunge really
far.
far.
Yeah, they can jump. There's all sorts of crazy stats. When the waiter tells Grandpa again that Mr. Kepler is still running late, his patience is expended, and he leaves a message that he returned home. Louise greets Philip at the curb and urges the boy and his new snake toward a car driven by Jacmel, suggesting a sudden change of plans. But the boy dashes into the house, insisting he get his snake into its terrarium as soon as possible. Dave is furious to even see the boy in the house and shouts insults at him as he passes.
You're a cheeky little bastard, aren't you? Well, buddy is a cheeky little bastard.
Louise tries to rush the process to get the kid out the door, but just as Dave answers a phone call from the police, she's bitten on the face by the snake. Out at the curb, Grandpa is returning home and overhears her screams inside. He assures her the snake isn't a dangerous species because he didn't order a black mamba. Dave drags Grandpa out into the hall and socks him repeatedly in the gut, giving away the game. Philip is understandably confused and a hostage situation is officially underway.
There was this weird audio bit when, Grandpa gets punched and Philip sees it and he yells, "Grandpa!" But there's like a weird audio, like two voices not completely overlapped of the kid saying "Grandpa."
Oh, that's weird.
I went back and forth over it like several times. It's like a weird delayed echo, but it's like it's like stereo. It's essentially stereo.
But they just had him off sync.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jacmel shouts at Dave for deviating from the plan and tells him to await instructions moving forward. Dave locks Grandpa in the basement and loads a shotgun from Grandpa's gun rack. Jacmel has to drag Louise downstairs as she hyperventilates from lung paralysis from her snake bite. There's already a cop at the porch responding to the snake mix-up, but Dave is certain they've been caught and opens the door only to blast the cop backwards into the street with the shotgun. Again, Jacmel lays into him for his violent improvisations, and Dave acts like he basically had no choice. When they check through the window, they see the officer has managed to crawl to his car to radio for backup, but Dave doesn't say that part. He's just like, "Oh no, he's dead, and there was nobody else there. It's just the one guy. We're all good."
Yeah.
Nobody's going to notice a bloody cop dead in the street.
Oh, people were screaming when the gunshot went off.
Yeah.
So, like, somebody obviously heard it.
Jacmel says they need to leave immediately. Philip runs to hide and Dave chases after him. Left alone, the choking maid Louise collapses to the floor. From under a bed, Philip watches Dave's feet stomp angrily around a room until he's officially spotted.
You come here, you little bastard.
Louise contorts demonically with her last few ounces of strength as she succumbs to the venom of the black mamba. Her skin is purple and her mouth is red with blood. Sirens can be heard closing in all around the home. Police urge all neighbors inside and away from the home after reports of gunfire. Commander Bulloch, the man in charge, played by Nicol Williamson, arrives to the scene. He observes the fallen officer and waves over an ambulance to collect the man. Jacmel addresses the commander through the front window of the home. He describes Philip to the police before reading a list of demands.
A car, money, time.
Oh, you must be joking.
He tells the commander that if he isn't authorized to provide these things, then he should get his supervisor down here to negotiate. Upstairs in the house, the black mamba reappears and lashes out at some of Philip's other caged animals. Dave is instructed to collect Grandpa from the basement, and we get a glimpse of the snake slithering into the house's ventilation system. Grandpa confirms via Louise's bite wounds that she was attacked by a black mamba specifically. Jacmel puts Grandpa in charge of tracking the snake down and disposing of it. A huge police control vehicle rolls up outside the house, which will provide a more private headquarters for the commander and his team. Jacmel orders Grandpa around the second floor of the house with a lamp in search of the snake, but all he finds are a few false alarms, like firewood and cords. When he's walked far enough to unplug his lamp, he continues searching in the dark and whacks the hell out of what I think is a coiled whip on the floor in his confusion.
I couldn't tell what it was either until he picked it up. But then I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a whip, but we don't hold on it for long enough and it's not well lit enough.
I thought it was just cables.
But it just ends.
Yeah, but I thought
it ends in like a blunt.
I thought his whacking severed the cables.
Oh, I don't know.
But it was really thick.
Yeah.
I don't know what it could have been if it was it wasn't too big to be an extension cord.
Well, it was just the stinger that they had on set for the lights.
No, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be like a whip that was literally just coiled on the floor and he thought it was a snake. Weirdly, Philip comes in to congratulate him like it was the snake, but it's nowhere to be found and he doesn't immediately rush his grandson away. It's like, isn't there still a black mamba in this room? Why are you just like, we did it. We killed a whip. Out on the street, Commander Bulloch gives his men orders to approach the building from every available entrance. More police string up tarps, blocking all visibility of the police. Bulloch would like to maintain the illusion that he is the second and last officer on the scene, and he needs everyone else to stay unseen and silent.
And if any of our men talks above a whisper, I'll have his ball.
Do you guys recall the last time someone cautioned against speaking above a whisper for fear of grievous bodily harm? Pretty recent.
A
and
stranger.
If you say his name above a whisper.
Madman Mars.
Madman Mars. Do you mean Mars?
That if you say his name above a whisper in the woods, he will hear you, because he can be anywhere, anytime. And if he hears you call his name, he'll come for you.
We move in snake POV through the vents as sharpshooters are staged on the roofs and in windows across the street.
Do you recall the last time we had snake POV?
Snake POV? Well, that would have to be Jaws of Satan, right?
Yeah.
Commander Bulloch signals his men to tow away the kidnapper's getaway vehicle. When Dave threatens to shoot them for taking it, Jacmel drags him back inside and slaps him around some more. Bulloch asks for the boy, and Jacmel asks for all the same demands and their car back. A nearby squad car flashes its brights to call Bulloch over, and he's informed of the black mamba believed to be in the home with this hostage situation. Philip begins having another asthma attack, and Grandpa begs to get the boy's medicine, but they won't allow it, so he struggles to coach the kid's breathing. We see more snake POV still in the vents. Bulloch learns from the city's blueprints of the neighborhood that this is an old block, and the walls between the properties are solid, so they can't escape into a neighboring house without some effort. It's not impossible, though.
Yeah, because you don't know how long...
Or what they came with.
Yeah, because my mind was immediately, they had heating repair people here.
Yeah.
The heat, they have been without heat, so they probably haven't even been living at the house. I felt like I was like, there's some information here that...
Turns out, nope. Almost completely irrelevant.
Well, they didn't plan to stay at this location.
Right, they were going to be at the other house at the edge of town. Bulloch requests subterranean maps and historical blueprints in case the basements can connect, or if there's sewer access, and a full background of the servants in the house. A call comes in on the radio announcing the homeowner, Philip's father, is an American hotel magnate. Dr. Stowe arrives to the scene, and she's led to Commander Bulloch. She briefs him on the snake.
Oh, could you tell me just how dangerous, very dangerous is?
The most dangerous snake in the whole world. That dangerous.
Imagine every molecule of your body exploding at the speed of light. So that's bad. Important safety tip. Thanks, Egon. She claims that in all known cases that a bite without antidote is fatal. He leads her to the front of the house and instructs her to tell the kidnappers the exact same thing she just told him and to answer their questions accurately. When he is fully up to speed, Jacmel claims they are too late. The snake is loose, and worse, it's just bit someone. They negotiate for Dr. Stowe to meet them at the steps with the antidote so she can administer it herself. When she gets to the steps, though, she leans over the victim, wrapped in a rug, and Jacmel quickly reveals himself from inside and drags her into the house as a new hostage.
So the legs are sticking out here, and it definitely looks like it's wearing like pantyhose
For sure.
and maybe like lady shoes.
I wanted him to be in a full dress with a wig and everything.
I really wanted to cut back into the house and just have him, like pantsless but in pantyhose and high heels, but we don't get that.
No.
I also want to know if he definitely has the same size feet as the maid, or like where he got
I think he was wearing those shoes when he got there. Back inside, Dave is furious to be left out of the loop on this part of the plan. Grandpa introduces himself to the woman to calm her nerves.
My name's Howard Anderson. I'm the boy's grandfather.
Looking at an older map, Bulloch sees that these houses all had stables around the back, and he suspects there may still be an accessible servants' entrance in what are now a row of storefronts along the backs of the houses. Philip's attack is worsening, and Grandpa demands again to access the medicine, and Jacmel brings Grandpa Anderson with him out of the room. A few policemen break into the shop behind the Hopkins house to work their way into the back room in search of a servant's entrance. The snake crawls slowly through the vents some more, in contrast with the doctor's claim that these snakes are the fastest in the world. And it's like, how long does it take to get downstairs, Snakey? Let's pick this up. The cops in the storeroom can make out the frame of a door in the wallpaper of the back wall and start cutting through it. Dave starts flirting with Dr. Stowe and offers to make them some drinks. When he throws open the liquor cabinet, he finds the snake on the top shelf. As they puzzle out how the snake got inside, Grandpa points to a vent on the wall behind the cabinet. Jacmel spots the creature retreating back into the wall and jams up the hole behind it to keep him inside.
Okay, so couple questions.
Yeah.
One, why is there a big hole in the back
with
of the
no vent on it?
well, like, why is there a big hole in the back of this liquor cabinet?
Oh, the cabinet, yeah.
Two, why is the liquor cabinet pressed up against a vent in the wall that produces heat for the room?
And why is there no grate over this vent hole?
Yeah, it's like why would you want your liquor cabinet just full on getting the heat?
Scotch toasty.
You've clearly never lived in England.
Yeah. England. Dr. Stowe suggests putting on the heat to warm up the snake since mambas are sensitive to heat and it may drive him into a coma.
Turning off the heat.
Oh, turning off the heat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're sensitive to, they don't like the cold. So
okay.
She wants it to go into a coma.
Ah.
But they just heat. I was like, that's like a really smart idea.
Outside, the commander learns that the chauffeur here is Dave Connolly, insanely no priors. The maid, Louise Andrews, is also technically clean, but Interpol has a file on her and a German agent, Mueller, who has gone by many names. Presumably, this is Klaus Kinski's character. Insane that an American hotel magnate wouldn't get an Interpol sheet on this character, though. Just like look it up and be like,
yeah, you're doing background checks.
No, I'm not going to hire spies to come work as a maid in my house. Grandpa and Dr. Stowe are finally allowed to administer the boy's medicine properly. A voice on Bulloch's radio confirms his suspicions.
Interpol report 18/44. Jacques Muller, alias Jacmel, alias Hans Kepler, fugitive. Indicted Milan 1968.
That call is interrupted with an update on the boy's parents. Mom has been notified and is en route from Rome now. They hear Dr. Stowe screaming outside and come running. Inside, we can see David is twisting her hair hard to make her scream. Jacmel tosses down what he claims is a gift from Dr. Stowe, a suspiciously finger-sized box, and Bulloch delivers it to his team. It's a finger, all right. Do you remember the last time someone threw something out of the window of a hostage situation to the police with something inside?
I do, but it wasn't a finger, as I recall.
Was it ragtime?
It was ragtime.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I thought it was going to be a finger or something like that.
Well, because it was an urn.
Mm-hmm.
Or like it was a
some chalice,
a precious artifact.
Yeah,
because they had taken over a library.
Yeah,
and the librarian was like, "Oh, I know that exact piece."
Right, and then they want to open it up, and James Cagney hands it off to one of his subordinates.
You open it.
It explodes.
Yeah, what was his character's name? Rhinelander something. Like his first name was Rhinelander Waldo or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
As he rushes back to the crime scene, a bobby tries to introduce Mr. Bulloch to Mr. David Ball from the London Zoo, played by Michael Gough.
This is Mr. Ball, sir, from the London Zoo. I'll be with you in a minute, Mr. Ball.
Bulloch makes a request for the tallest officer they can find and asks to speak with Philip's father on the phone. Why does he do that?
I don't know. Even
that never pays off, does it?
Well, it pays off in the sense that he
needs a uniform,
but I don't know why he needs a uniform.
And is Nicol Williamson super tall?
I think he's just scared of the snake.
I don't know.
So he wanted
I think
leather.
he wanted protection against snake bites.
Okay. So he got a person who would wear thick leathers like a motor patrolman.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
so helmet, gloves, jacket.
Snake codpiece. The huge. The tow truck brings back the getaway vehicle, and Dave can't believe Jacmel's plan is working.
They fell for it. You've done it. You're a bloody genius, you know that?
Which, to my ears, implies that they, in fact, did not just throw down Stowe's finger, but something to trick the cops with, leading me to the next question. Why? Aren't they the bad guys?
But they wanted more leverage.
Why didn't they throw out Dr. Stowe's finger if they wanted leverage? Aren't they evil?
That's a good question. Why didn't they actually cut her finger off? Maybe because it would be easier to cut it off of a dead person.
Would it? Her screams would be more believable.
Yeah, I was going to say she'd be yelling less.
Standing in the street, Bulloch assures them that the money they've requested is on the way and to please refrain from hurting Stowe any further. We see Mrs. Hopkins' plane land, and her eyes are wet with tears as she runs to the taxi stand. Jacmel tells Dave to run around the house and verify all the doors are locked as they approach the climax of their escape. Bulloch and Mr. Ball from the zoo prepare to enter the home through the servants' entrance they've discovered around back. They cut down the wallpaper and pick the lock with a screwdriver.
I like the balls on Mr. Ball.
Yeah,
because he's like,
that he's willing to go in here.
Yeah, it's like, I'm gonna go with you because if you spot the snake, I'm gonna be here.
But then he'll sort of screw that up here in a second too. When they finally push the door open, bricks loosen from the wall inside, and Dave and Grandpa happen to be standing right in front of it. Bulloch sees Dave raise his shotgun and shoots him down, but Grandpa raises his hands to the sky quickly.
Don't shoot.
Who are you?
Howard Anderson, boy's grandfather.
Watch out!
David Ball notices the snake just above them on a shelf, and instead of catching it like he was brought in here to do, they all just run away.
Run away?
Yeah, this bothers me because you just shot the guy.
And then left the hostage in the hostage situation.
And I know that there's a deadly snake, but just run up the stairs real quick or something. Get in there. Just keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
It can't bite all of you.
Right. But so they get split up here, though, because the cop and the snake expert are rushed back out the servants' entrance, and Grandpa has to go up the stairs.
But, I don't understand why. Why didn't they all either go up the stairs or all go out that door?
Or why didn't Grandpa pick up this shotgun off the floor?
Mm-hmm. And even so, once you close the door, and from the police's perspective,
regroup and get in there.
Yeah, exactly. They're on the other side of the door. It's all right, we know the snake is in this room.
They're like,
let's go.
Now let's seal it up. We killed one of them. Let's stop using this entrance for good. They leave a bomb in the back of the store to just collapse the whole store around it to hold it shut. In the snake's POV, we see that Dave isn't totally dead, and he struggles blood-soaked to climb the stairs into the house. Dave is paralyzed with fear, and the snake works its way up his pant leg and then bites him in the dick.
It's there's another snake in here.
Oh, God.
He felt threatened.
The second most dangerous snake in the world.
Oliver Reed's dick.
Perfect. Outside, we see Philip's mother trying to break through the police line into the crime scene. Before Bulloch makes his next move, one of the lab techs informs him that the blood vessels on the finger they were gifted indicate that the body was dead before it was severed. It's not Dr. Stowe's. Alone now, Jacmel brings Stowe and Grandpa back upstairs and holds them in place.
This finger detail is nice, but it changes nothing about the situation that they're in.
They're like, oh, it turns out that this wasn't her finger. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
They still have hostages.
Well, I think that it changes the commander's like thought process here because he's worried about the doctor.
Right. It literally brings the stakes down that it wasn't her finger.
Yeah. But
now he's like, oh, they're pussies. They're not going to cut off any more fingers. Great.
Basically.
It's like too much of a happy ending already for them to know, oh, they're not actually willing to hurt their own hostages. So we should all just rush in there and shoot the guy because they're too scared to do anything. Outside, Bulloch is led to Lord Dunning, who has just arrived on the scene. Who is this guy? I don't know how lords work, but it seems like this guy's just rich enough to wear a tuxedo and to drive his limo onto a crime scene and say, what's going on up there?
He's like,
carry on.
He's like, he's wearing a tuxedo. It's like, it's 5 p.m. When am I a farmer?
Yeah. I just got out of an opera. What are you doing? I don't even live here. I just heard gunshots.
I imagine it's someone from the House of Lords,
right?
Like saying there's a hostage situation. It's been going on for at least, like, I would assume close to a full day at this point. I think they say 8. Did they say 8 days?
No, it's just been one day.
Okay.
It was just a few hours.
Because the mother left for Rome and she's been back. Obviously, England to Rome isn't like, it's a distance. So it's not like, it's
like a 2-hour flight probably tops.
But
Google it.
I'm going to Google it. That sounds wrong to me.
You think it's shorter?
I think it's longer.
I think it's longer. I would probably put it at like a 5 or 6 hour flight.
I can see Rome from my house.
You don't even live in London.
It's a belated Palin impression.
Michael Palin?
Yeah. Super belated. Remember he was always saying shit about how far away Rome was?
The Womans?
Well, that's actually a Palin quote. That's pretty good.
And another Handmade film.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
It's like a 2.5 hour flight.
Wow.
Oh!
Bravo.
Shut up.
Bravo.
Shut up.
Oh, you didn't have to tell the truth. It says 4 days. And fuck off.
And they had the Concorde back then, too. So
yeah.
I don't think they would use it for a short flight.
Well, she is a hotel magnate. Bulloch says there's only one living kidnapper now, and Philip is okay as far as they know, and he apologizes for Stowe's unfortunate involvement. Bulloch tells Jacmel that the money has arrived, and he demands the boy's release before the money will change hands. Jacmel takes Dr. Stowe at gunpoint and leads her to a balcony to speak with the commander. She says Philip and Howard are okay. Jacmel says he's coming out with the kid, and if he's not followed, he will release the kid later.
He says, the kid's going to be in front of me. It's like, okay, well, unless you're only 4 feet tall.
Well, luckily it's Klaus Kinski. No, I don't know how tall he is, actually. He just seems like a small guy.
Wow.
2.5 hours tall.
How long have you been a robot? 4'1".
My, that is a long time. Another Handmade film.
5'8", actually.
Okay. Grandpa notices the shadow of a snake slowly sliding down the curtains beside Jacmel and barks in shock when its head emerges. How is it doing this? Where did this snake come from? Is there another vent above the window?
I don't know.
Very strange. The snake manages to bite Jacmel several times as he struggles with it, and eventually he's so disoriented by the attack that he stumbles out onto the balcony with his gun drawn. When he tries to shoot at the snake, the sharpshooters all take aim, and Grandpa pulls Philip and Dr. Stowe out of the line of fire as bullets crash through the window.
They don't start shooting fast enough in my taste.
No.
Like the moment that guy's head came out and there was nobody else on that balcony, fire away.
Yeah, but he did just say, I'm going to come out with the kid in front of me, so maybe they were just double checking that he wasn't there. Shot and bit all over, Jacmel falls forward over the balcony and lands wrapped in the curtains on netting below it.
Well, he does...
He shoots the snake in the head.
We see the snake head explode,
After he's hit with several bullets, he then re-aims and still shoots the snake in the head.
That's pretty impressive.
Priorities.
Yeah. Point blank to hit a snake with a handgun in the face. Pretty good. The press is finally given access to the scene, and Mrs. Hopkins fights her way to the house to see her son.
I'm his mother!
Grandpa and Dr. Stowe climb into an ambulance together, and Mom comes out carrying the boy.
So what's going on there? Because as soon as the shooting starts and he grabs Stowe and brings her back into the house off the balcony, he snuggles into her hair.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Like you do.
I don't think they have that relationship yet.
That's just a grandfather thing.
They met 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, but
they've been in a traumatic situation.
Okay, shared trauma.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to just stuff your face into her hair.
That's why, as they're getting into the ambulance, you see him leave his pants behind.
Third deadliest snake.
I'm gonna have to take your temperature with my meat thermometer.
Jesus. We want to see Sterling Hayden naked. That's what this is about.
That's what it's about. If you guys can think of any movies where we see Sterling Hayden's dick, please let us know. I bet it's huge. Come on. He's got that BDE.
I had to sit there and like go BDE.
Yeah. Then we hard cut to the basement as the camera follows the flames of the furnace up the vents into the same ventilation shaft as earlier, but inside are 2 black mamba eggs, one of which has already hatched. I can't imagine it would hatch that quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So I tried to make this make sense.
Let's say that this is actually 2 days later.
It still doesn't make sense. So
6 months later.
Okay. 2 months later, it might make sense.
Okay.
But
there's not a timestamp on it.
I guess there's not, but it seems to be happening immediately.
It does.
And I was like, is this the kind of thing where they have the eggs, but they keep them inside their body and then they hatch? But that ends up like live birth. It would just be baby snakes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be eggs.
Right.
So.
But they're in a furnace. It's like an incubator.
I guess. But yeah, it would have to be like 2 months later.
Yeah, maybe it was. And now there's more snakes, implying that this happy ending might not last forever after all. A disclaimer at the end reads, "The producers wish to extend their thanks to David Ball, overseer of reptiles at London Zoo, without whose skill and courage in the handling of the deadly black mamba this film could not have been made." Which explains why we see a character playing the real-life snake expert in the film.
I feel like that's pretty cool. Like, if I got to be played by Michael Gough, I'd be like, yeah.
I wonder if that wasn't a situation where originally he was supposed to play that character, and they were like, you know what? How about we just thank you at the end? Is that cool if we just do that and we just reshoot these couple scenes with a different guy? Because maybe you're not an actor. But yeah, good job, Guy, for... that means they used a real black mamba.
They used a real black mamba
for the set,
that's
which is
kind of crazy.
Then it got mixed up with with another snake.
Wait a minute. This isn't a black mamba? Yeah, that's Venom. This is Die Hard with a snake. It's literally moving around in the vents. It's a hostage situation, and it saves the day. Do you guys recall the last time a snake saved the day?
Was it?
No, more recently. A woman was about to get raped by a motorcyclist.
Oh,
well, Jaws of Satan?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
But it only saved her because it wanted to kill her itself.
Yeah, but it didn't, though. It let her get away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it let her get away. But it killed the guy trying to hurt her.
It's not as fast as the Black Mamba.
Yeah. I should have been motherfucking Black Mamba. Venom. This is fun.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I give it a thumbs up.
I like this trio of insane actors to put in this hostage situation together. I wish Sterling Hayden could have been crazier than he was.
I like that Oliver Reed was just terrible at everything the whole way through.
He just plays like a
terrible
brute moron in everything. Yeah, it's fun. And I love that you can tell that Oliver Reed and Klaus Kinski just hated the fuck out of each other.
Yeah, that was genuine.
Yeah, it was very genuine. They did not like each other on set.
Like, I'm the crazy one. No, I'm the crazy one. Just fighting over who gets to be crazier.
Yeah, I can feel like Klaus Kinski might be hard to work with.
I think they're all impossible. I don't know what Tobe Hooper was thinking because he has a hard time working with actors who are not difficult. So for him to think that this wasn't just a completely like volatile situation to walk into
and
is
then
crazy.
Throw a deadly snake in there for good measure.
Yeah.
He just wanted it to be method.
Yeah. Well, I think it was fun. I would say this is probably a thumbs up. It's probably worth checking out.
Yeah, it's a thumbs up from me.
Where's this going Letterboxd?
You know, there hasn't been much competition this year, so honestly, it's pretty high on my list. I have it in second place right now out of 10. It's below Zoot Suit and above A Stranger Is Watching.
I have it in third, which is below A Stranger Is Watching, but above Vice Squad.
I have it in fourth, which is also below A Stranger Is Watching and above The Aftermath. You know, other films this reminded me of, I said Tobe Hooper's Eaten Alive because that one's about like people trying to stay at a hotel run by a psychopath, and he has a pet crocodile that's eating people off the side of the place. But there's also, did you ever see Burning Bright?
I was just going to say Burning Bright.
Yeah. So that one reminds me a lot of, and I feel like that movie is supposed to be like a metaphor for like child abuse, because it's about these two daughters who have like an abusive drunk father, right? And he buys a tiger from like a local circus.
Oh yeah.
And he brings it home, and then there's like a tornado.
Hurricane,
It hits the house, and so they're trapped in this house with a tiger during the tornado, and they can't go outside.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
But it reminds me of that situation where it's like a combination of like shitty situations that you can't avoid.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little forced, I guess. Like, I don't know what the original plan was. I guess they were just going to take the boy to the undisclosed location and request money for his return. Like, probably a pretty straightforward kidnapping. But it does feel a little like, okay, we need a reason why a cop shows up randomly. I guess we're going to add a snake.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, I think that's where the book starts, is that it's like, it's a combination of a standard hostage situation, but with an extra level of danger to it. And the extra level is the deadliest snake in the world is also mixed into it. But it's not super filmic because the snake spends almost the entire film in the ventilation shafts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems to come out randomly or when they need it to for plot.
And it pops out of the box that it came in once to hit a lady in the face. And then it doesn't bite anyone for the whole rest of the movie until it literally slithers directly out of a ventilation shaft to kill the last surviving hostage taker.
But it also killed the guy in the basement. It killed Dave in the basement.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
But then it went back into a vent?
I guess.
Yeah.
Vent back upstairs. It does seem a little convenient. And
I wish only killed the bad guys.
I wish that it at least attacked or tried to come around like the boy or Dr. Stowe or just somebody else, so that like there was some element of danger.
Yeah.
Or have it just be for the plot purpose. Like, it doesn't have to be true, but that the Black Mamba is like very territorial, and once it stakes out a territory, it will fiercely attack anyone who's inside of it.
Yeah.
Just to give it like a reason to be kind of patrolling or be around, like that. It like, you know, it's like, oh, it's treating this house like it's home, its nest.
I would have liked to see after it kills Dave if it brought the shotgun with it back into the vent. And when they find Dave, it says, "Ho ho ho! I have a shotgun" on his chest.
And why they just dismiss the, we should turn off the heat, which will kill this. Won't kill the snake, but it'll slow it down.
Sleep.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah. Any other ideas, snake expert?
Yeah, snake expert. We'll call that Plan B. Plan A is just to run around.
But you could put on a jacket. But the snake could put on a jacket.
Our director here was Piers Haggard. Before this, he directed the original Pennies from Heaven miniseries with Bob Hoskins and a couple Quatermass films, or Quatermass, or however you're supposed to pronounce that. We saw him last for The Fiendish Plot of Dr. Fu Manchu. Interestingly, in 1994, 9 years after Tobe Hooper's Life Force, Haggard directs an unrelated TV movie called The Life Force Experiment. I feel like Hooper would have been just like, fuck you again. The fire director, Tobe Hooper, is obviously best known for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which we might get to this year for a Patreon review. After that, he directs Eaten Alive, and later The Dark, which was handed off to director Bud Cardos during production. Hooper directed Salem's Lot miniseries, and so far for the show The Funhouse. He's back later this year with Poltergeist, and later he directs Life Force, Invaders from Mars, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Novelist Alan Scholefield, he has 3 more stories that were adapted into TV movies, but nothing I recognized. The adaptation was done by Robert Carrington, who previously wrote the screenplays for Kaleidoscope and High Risk. This was his final theatrical screenplay. The music here came from Michael Kamen. This is early in Kamen's career. He just previously scored the first and only installment of She, Security Hazard Expert, an attempted female Bond franchise, and more recently for us, John Waters' Polyester.
I immediately recognized it as a Michael Kamen score. I was like, boy, this is really like giving me like Robin Hood and Hudson Hawk vibes.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my dad.
It's good music. I really like the score.
It's very up too. Like when during the whole drive home from the school. Like it's like, oh, this is actually a wonderful score. But my dad was just watching Band of Brothers.
Oh, okay.
And I'm listening to the score. It's like, this is another Michael Kamen score, isn't it?
There it is.
I could identify him pretty well.
He's back later with Dead Zone, Brazil, Highlander, Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, Roadhouse, Lethal Weapon 2, Die Hard 2, Nothing But Trouble, Hudson Hawk, Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, because, of course, if you're going to do Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, you have to do Last Action Hero. And he also has Oscar nominations for his scores to Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Don Juan DeMarco. The cinematographer here was Gilbert Taylor. He previously lit Dr. Strangelove, Frenzy, The Omen, Star Wars, and so far on the show Flash Gordon. He's back later this season with Green Ice and Losing It, and later Lassiter and Voyage of the Rock Aliens. The editor here was Michael Bradsell. He previously cut The Devils, also starring Oliver Reed, Inserts, Jabberwocky, and so far on the show Breaking Glass. Later this season, he's back with I'm Dancing as Fast as I Can, and later still he cuts High Spirits and Neverending Story 3. Klaus Kinski played Jacmel. He played Count Dracula in Nosferatu the Vampire, Aguirre in Aguirre the Wrath of God, and Fitzcarraldo in Fitzcarraldo. He's Juan Wild the Hunchback in For a Few Dollars More. He's the father of Natasha Kinski, who we saw last as Tess in Roman Polanski's Tess, and so far on the show we've only had him as the psychiatrist father in Schizoid and as Dr. Hugo Zuckerbrot in Buddy Buddy. Kinski famously turned down the role of Tote in Raiders to do this because he claimed that the Raider script was moronically shitty, which sounds mostly like trying to save face after an inarguably terrible decision.
Yeah.
Like that's what he would be known for. And he's in great movies, but that's what he would be known for.
Yeah.
Oliver Reed played Dave. We had him last season in the dual role of Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype, and Patreon requests of Burnt Offerings and Oliver. We've also seen him in Lion of the Desert and Condor Man. He was in The Devils, which lost a Patreon poll for that month, and The Who's Tommy. But as I've explained on the show, my favorite from him has to be Vulcan from Terry Gilliam's The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. He's also in The Brood, Gore, and The Pit and the Pendulum. Nicol Williamson played Commander William Bulloch. We've seen him so far as Merlin in John Borman's Excalibur. He was Hamlet in the 1969 Hamlet, Dr. Worley in Return to Oz, Father Morning in Exorcist 3, and Cagliostro in Spawn. Sarah Miles played Dr. Marion Stowe. She had appeared prior to this in Antonioni's Blow Up, and then Ryan's Daughter, written by her husband at the time, Robert Bolt, and The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing as the love interest of Burt Reynolds. During that production, she and Reynolds were briefly suspected in the murder of aspiring screenwriter David Whiting, who was found dead in Miles's hotel room. But ultimately, Whiting's death was ruled an accidental suicide by overdose. She made headlines in 2007 for claiming that for 30 years she'd been drinking her own urine for health purposes, meaning she was already a few years into the practice during this film's production. I wonder if there was a glass of it in that cabinet. Sterling Hayden played Howard Anderson. This was his final feature film, though he does appear as himself in a documentary called Pharos of Chaos or Lighthouse of Chaos, mostly just talking about himself and just randomly jabbering on and on. It's not really a followable story that he's telling. So far on the show, we've seen him in 9 to 5, Gas, and a Patreon review of The Long Goodbye. He's Jack D. Ripper in Dr. Strangelove, Captain McCluskey in The Godfather with Al Pacino, and speaking of Al Pacino, Cornelia Sharpe played Ruth Hopkins. We saw her most recently as a girlfriend of Serpico's, and if you'll recall, that film's original director, John G. Avildsen, left the project after clashing with producer Martin Bregman, who demanded he cast his girlfriend, Cornelia Sharpe. Coincidence of coincidences, Sharpe's now husband, Bregman, also produced this film. She also appears in the reincarnation of Peter Proud with Michael Sarrazin, who we saw last week in The Seduction as Morgan Fairchild's lover. Sharpe did not work again until 2000 on something called Table 1. Lance Holcomb played Philip Hopkins. This was Lance's final feature film appearance, even though he's credited as introducing, and we've seen him twice already, as Scotty Goodrich in Christmas Evil and Fenny Bate in Ghost Story. We mentioned in our review of Ghost Story that the actor playing Fenny's older brother, Gregory Bate, also shows up in an Oliver Reed Killer Snake film, specifically Spasms, which we'll get to next season. Though that one's like an anaconda-style giant snake.
Okay.
Susan George plays Louise Andrews. Before this, she showed up with Oliver Reed in U.S. Against the World and Tomorrow Never Comes, but not Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hype with Oliver Reed. She was in a TV movie with the normal spelling Mr. Hyde. She's probably best known for Straw Dogs, and we saw her last in Enter the Ninja as the wife that Alex Courtney forces to sleep with his best friend Franco Nero. Mike Gwilym played Detective Constable Dan Spencer. He's back later this season in Priest of Love. Michael Gough played David Ball. He's playing a fictionalized version of the film's actual snake handler and expert, David Ball from the London Zoo. He's definitely best known for playing Alfred in the Burton and Schumacher Batmans. He continued working with Burton in Sleepy Hollow, Corpse Bride, and even voicing a dodo bird in Alice in Wonderland. He also plays Dr. Flamand in Top Secret, and we saw him last in our Patreon reviews of Trog and The Boys from Brazil. Edward Hardwick played Lord Dunning. He's Mr. Brownlow in Polanski's Oliver, so we have people from both Olivers here. John Forbes Robertson played Sergeant Nash. He's the minister in Life Force for fired director Tobe Hooper. He's also Dracula in The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires. Peter Porteous played Hodges. He was the prime minister in Life Force, which is like a minister after it holds the Matrix of Leadership. Or the Allspark? Yeah.
No, the Matrix of Leadership, I think.
Is it the Matrix of Leadership? He also shows up in Bond films Octopussy and The Living Daylights. Maurice Colborne played Samson. We saw him last as Axeman 1 in Hawk the Slayer. Nicholas Donnelly played Superintendent Police. He's a police inspector in Life Force. Alan Ford played Piers. He's a cab driver in American Werewolf in London and famously Bricktop in Snatch. I think that's everything for Venom. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. If you enjoy what we're doing, consider giving us a review on iTunes. I don't think it helps visibility, but it's good for morale. And if you really like the show, maybe you should join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/vintagevideopodcast for access to all our monthly 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. Patrons are currently choosing between Caged Heat, The Conversation, Foxy Brown, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, It's Alive, and Truck Turner for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, which IMDb describes like so. An orphaned teenager finds himself being dominated by his aunt, who's hell-bent on keeping him with her at all costs. We leave you now with the trailer for Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, aka Night Warning.
So shocking, so terrifying, so powerful. Night Warning has been named Best Horror Film of the Year by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror. Billy and Julie, young, innocent, in love. It was all a mistake. They didn't go looking for trouble. They were just too curious. Without knowing, they've uncovered a deadly secret. By accident, they've stumbled onto a grisly murder. Now, they know too much to live. A chilling tale of a young boy and girl, innocent victims, now targets of a frenzied obsession with murder. See the award-winning Night Warning.